I always get questions for which trendy tech stack to use. Always stick to the same one to be the most productive. I would argue that the best tech stack for you is where you are the most competent. So if you like to be productive, then stick to a tech stack that works for you and no one else. And thanks to just this philosophy, I was able to ship over 10 full stack applications. And not only that, I was able to build a lot of really small applications as part of this YouTube channel as well. Now, I'm a one person business, I am a tech educator. I don't have customer support, but the problems that do come up are easily solvable thanks to the tech stack that I'm using today. And this tech stack cost me $0 per month. So whatever I make in all the products that I've shipped so far goes directly in my pocket, which is a great feeling. So let me quickly show you my tech stack. On the front end, I use Next.js. Next.js is a React framework for the web. It is one of the most popular React frameworks, and it really allows me to ship high quality applications. As part of my YouTube channel, I also share a lot of Next.js content. So using Next.js as a framework as part of my tech stack really helps enable me as I'm able to be really more productive. Next.js does have the app router. Despite what everyone else says, the server components and the client component model in my tech stack really allows me to just write functions and ship APIs as part of it, which makes it really seamless for me to build full stack web applications. I use React because Next.js is built on part of React, and React is a great library for building web components inside of Next.js. You can create really powerful, tiny components that you could just use. And now I have a set of components that I've been repurposing in every single app of mine, and that's been really serving me really well. In terms of the component library, I do think that in order for your app to look really good, the design of your app and all the components, you don't need to spin the wheel. You don't need to recreate something from the ground up. You should definitely stick to a component library. Now, a component library gives you a bunch of components that you can simply just copy paste. You could either get them from npm and install them, or you can simply just copy paste into your app. Now, ShatCN is one of those libraries which allows you to get these atomic components and basically just use them in your application. And all you need to do is to just install them or just copy paste them into your app. They have several components such as alert, avatar, badge, card. All of these components that are quite complex on their own are all provided to you, and all you can do is just grab the code from here, install it, and just simply use it. And they have a lot of different examples too. One thing not a lot of people know about is the blocks tab inside of ShatCN UI. And this block of code is essentially this specific UI that you can just copy paste. You can also customize different themes you want as part of ShatCN. And I highly recommend you to use any single component library as part of your tech stack, so you don't have to recreate a bunch of the code. It makes me feel like a child, like I'm using a bunch of Lego pieces together, combining and building something really cool, which is my application. Even if you don't use ShatCN, use some other component library, but definitely use it. Now, ShatCN is made with Tailwind CSS. Tailwind CSS is a utility first CSS framework. It's packed with classes like Flex, PT4, Text Center, and so on. What that means is instead of you writing display Flex in your CSS code and creating a separate file and coming up with a completely new class name, you're going to use Flex inline as a class name directly on that specific div or on that specific element. So Tailwind definitely makes your life a lot simpler as you'll be inlining a bunch of these utilities. I have been finding that I'm really productive at Tailwind, and you can just design directly in your markup. And I don't even go to Figma anymore. I just use Tailwind to mark up a quick UI and tweak things just to see how it's going to look, because it's so much faster to just know the utility and just write it. So the fact that ChatCN is also built on top of Tailwind is really cool because it's in the same ecosystem. And I create my design, my landing page, all of that with Tailwind as well, which really makes my life a lot simpler. One important piece in making your application stand out are icons. And I go for Lucid React icons for all the icons in my projects. And it is so freaking good. All my apps that I've shipped so far use Lucid React. It saves so much time. You don't have to re-download an SVG icon separately and then get it in your project, import it, and so on. You just have the package, so you directly start using it, and it makes the UI look so much better. I also use TypeScript instead of JavaScript to write code. in my applications, both on the front end as well as the back end. Now, TypeScript is a strongly typed programming language that builds on top of JavaScript, and it does give you better tooling at any scale, and truly believe it. There was a point for my personal website when I initially started off my business, I did not use TypeScript because I just felt like it was an overkill. And I truly believe that you should only use a tool when it makes sense and not just because it's trendy, which is why I'm creating this video as well. Because I want to show you the tools that actually help me versus trendy. So for TypeScript, I genuinely underestimated the value of it. When I just stuck to JavaScript in my personal website, I was so way slower because everything is a freaking object. So I had no idea what the type of that specific value was. And the more components I added in my website, it just got way complex. And I was really blind for what the object was. With TypeScript adding types to specific elements and structuring my code in a way that is scalable with TypeScript really helped me write better code. So having said that, if you think TypeScript is an overkill and you're doing just fine with JavaScript, please do it. Do what makes you the most productive. Now, authentication is very important in your application. If you can delegate this to a service, totally do it, because authentication is very complex and you don't want to solve the problems over and over again when a service can just do that for you and test it and do a better job at it. So I truly think Clerk is really, really good. I've been using it. It just has a few components that you can use, and you have a sign in page and a sign up page and a modal, and all the embeddable UI is where the power truly lies of Clerk. You also have a user management system now, because the fact that you have a dashboard to authenticate your users, manage your users, it's a lot better when you scale your application as well. You know who's signing in, how long have they signed in, and all that information is really helpful for creating a really flexible UI as well with Clerk. And the pricing of Clerk is also pretty good. So for instance, in the free plan, you can get everything you need to get started. Even when you move to production in the free plan, you could do that. And this just says that 10,000 monthly active users, no charge for users who sign up but never return, and so on. And all of this just makes it really seamless for me to just go with Clerk. Plus, when you're shipping your SaaS applications, what you truly need is Google sign in, username, password, and so on. So if you go to my Next.js application, and if you click on sign in, this is Clerk itself. So you can see it's secured by Clerk. And I already have sign in with Google, email address, and so on, as well as a sign up form. And all of this UI is taken care of by Clerk. So I don't have to worry about it. And Clerk is taking care of the complexity for me. So when it comes to the backend, I'm mainly using the Vercel API routes to create API routes for my application and use the HTTP methods to essentially create my routes, API routes, and adding any services to it. But frankly, I've been mainly sticking to server actions and server and client components to ship my application. I have several videos on my channel talking about this as well. So definitely check it out if you're interested. But that's what I'm mainly using for shipping API routes on the backend side. So when it comes to my database, I'm using PostgreSQL, which is an open source relational database. And I'm mainly using a service called NeonDB, which is a database service built on top of a serverless platform. And in terms of pricing, it's really good. It's for $0 per month. But more importantly, it allows me to just write SQL queries by simply exposing a SQL function. Once I establish a database connection, I'm able to just write SQL queries. And it has been really good because I just use AI for it to ask AI, hey, what query should I write for this data? And it's able to just give that to me. So that, along with the model of server actions, client components, and server components, has been really working very well in terms of shipping really powerful applications. When it comes to payment for my application, I'm mainly using Stripe. Now, Stripe has been really good. Some of the Stripe APIs can be really confusing, but I've been able to seamlessly create products on Stripe and ship and sell a bunch of services so far. I use the monthly subscriptions from Stripe, or I use the one time payment from Stripe to basically enable all my payments from my customers. I've been using Lemon Squeezy, which is built on top of Stripe as well. So the APIs are not really that different. And they are a merchant of record service. So they handle the tax compliance for you. So in terms of pricing, it's pretty much free to start, no trial, nothing. I just pay when I make sales, for instance, because they take a cut. But Stripe and Lemon Squeezy have been quite reliable. When it comes to hosting and deploying all my applications, I can literally show you. All my applications are in fact built on top of Vercel. You can see there are so many. All of these apps are mainly on Vercel, and the hobby plan of Vercel has been serving me really well. When I shipped my Next.js course, I did face a bit of scale over there. At that point, I just turned on the observability inside of Vercel, and this observability was, I believe, shipped recently. And this tab really helped me to figure out exactly what to do. And they also have logs in Vercel too. And I just use the logs tab from Vercel to monitor my logs and fix any issues that may come up. Now, when it comes to monitoring, you need to know where the errors have occurred, how they have occurred, what type of problems your users are facing. And logs tab is where I lean on a lot from Vercel to tell me exactly what the issues are. Because as the issues are coming up, I'm able to go to the log tabs to tell me exactly what's going on. And this specific app is I'm launching very soon. It's a video on how to build and deploy your AI SaaS application. So definitely subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because I plan to show you how to ship AI SaaS apps in general. But you can easily go to the log tab to tell you exactly what the errors are. The other monitoring tool that I've been using is Sentry. The Sentry is a application monitoring software. Back when I did work in my 9 to 5 job, I did use Sentry in quite a few projects, and it really allowed us to give a great observability insight in what the errors are and where the errors are as well. And I was able to identify and debug and resolve any problems that come up. In fact, when I did ship my Next.js course, I added Sentry to it, and I was able to fix a few issues that have consistently come up. They also email you the issues depending on the severity. You can also mark specific issues on the basis of how severe they are. And in terms of pricing, for one user, it's completely free. So I've been on that, and it's been so far so good. Then I also use Google Analytics for the analytics of my application to learn how many users are visiting my website, how often, what the different apps are, and what's the SEO search like for my application. If there are any unknown errors that the users are encountering by going to a specific route, then I'm also able to learn more from Google Analytics about that. So, to learn more about what's going on in my application, I'm using Google Analytics to just tell me what the problems are, what my funnel looks like, what they are doing in my app. Plus, it's completely free, so it's great. But I've also been just writing queries with Neon to also figure out the monitoring my apps as well. A lot of times, developers are fighting and arguing over their tech stack or how their framework is the best framework, and they're honestly unnecessary wars. I genuinely believe that a tech stack is something where you are the most productive, where you can ship the most applications. So, I would highly recommend you to pick a tech stack that works for you. And if you like my tech stack, then I have several videos on my channel to show you how you can build and deploy a AI SaaS app or a SaaS app, or even learn Next.js from the ground up. I hope this video was helpful. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.